The mission of the custom shop is twofold. First, it was to eliminate the conversation that Fender was a working man's guitar. Yes, it is a working man's guitar, but Fender is more than that. Fender is a top-of-the-line product. It can be used anywhere. It can be a collectible. It can be used with the top artist, whether he's working or not. There's no end to the limit where we can go with quality and playability of a guitar. And they laughed when I said, I'm going to open a custom shop.
The custom shop actually started to be talked about back in CBS era even. You know, we always felt there was a need for that because in research and development, myself and also the two model makers that worked with me always built custom guitars for artists. Not a lot, but you know, an artist would call and say, geez, I really like that guitar, but I want it bound and painted pink. Well, you know, we do that out of R&D as kind of a perk to our artists. So we always felt there was some kind of a market there. Not probably a very profitable market, but a market. When the company got purchased back, when Bill bought the company, we knew that the biggest thing we lost was prestige, image, you know, anything special. I mean, Fender had gone from being the working man's guitar to being the working man's nightmare almost to some degree. So what we had to do was give it prestige again, give it credibility, give it life, you know, give it image, get people, the right people to play it again. And so that's why the custom shop was started. Let's forget about everything but making the best possible Fender guitar we can build exactly what the musician wants.
And I think the custom shop was a way to look and explore what do musicians want today that we didn't see in the 70s and 80s when we kind of lost our marketplace. And the custom shop was able to look at that, ask individuals what they want. Again, you learn from the musicians. And that's the beauty of working at the custom shop. There's no limitation. There's nobody that says, even though I'm making Leo Fender's guitars, I'm still making Leo Fender's guitars from an interpretation of a customer, which is, I love a Stratocaster, but I need a humbucker here. You know, I'm using a Marshall amp or a Fender Twin, and this style of music, I need a humbucker. Or I love a Fender guitar, but I want a different tuning machine, or I want a different fret, or a fretboard radius because my playing style is such. And that's the beauty of the custom shop. It's Leo's basic concept of a fundamentally accessible guitar, but with whatever changes you need as an individual. But we go through an interview system when somebody orders a guitar and try to take what we consider artistic and manufacturing values and put it into a player's values. So what kind of amplifier do you use? What gauge strings do you use? What style of music are you playing? You know, what are your needs? And then give them back our feedback of here's my experience with that style of music, you know, that gauge of strings, and so and so.
The production line instrument is a good instrument, but over here, it's a great instrument, you know. It doesn't go out of here unless it plays great, you know, and it's what was ordered, you know. It has to be an exceptional guitar to go out of here. Especially like one-off stuff. We're looked at more like we're real luthiers and guitar makers now rather than just a bunch of guys making a production instrument. And a lot of that has come from the custom shop. They see the custom shop, look at all these neat guitars. Somebody has to know what they're doing to do this. Therefore, they associate it with it, you know, and the production instruments are so good that it creates an atmosphere where, wow, hey, if they can do that, maybe all this stuff they're making, you know, the big box guitars, the glue-in neck guitars, all the stuff that's not traditional for Fender to make, maybe I'll try it because, you know, can't be bad. Look how good the other stuff is. Fred came to me with a raw drawing. Basically, this is what I want to do. Okay, let me get in here on the computer, and I figured, let's move this a little bit, and move this a little bit, and this will never do, and fool around with it. And next day, we were cutting one out.
Come up with a design that's done on the NC with a computer program. Steve Bollinger, one of our engineers, and I came up with this. And it's made in 2 pieces. It's all solid wood, routed out in a pattern with internal chambers for the passage of air and sound, vibration, and so forth. This particular one is very custom.
There's several ways that a custom guitar can be born, if you will. It all starts with the wood. It has to start with the wood. And we have our own group of guys. I still buy the wood for the shop. We have our own selection of woods. We tap tone, we select for aesthetics, we select for weight. We prepare every single piece of neck and body material for our product. There are some products that we do. If somebody orders a 57 Strat, basically reissue, well then we take our selected woods, and when they're running 57 Strats, we'll have their NC route that guitar. Also, in the with concerning myself with costs and trying to keep it good business as well as an excellent, vehicle for instruments, I don't duplicate all the neck tooling here that they have there. So even though we hand make a lot of necks, again, if things like our priceless product, the 54 Strat we do and the 60 Strat we do, we select the materials, we have them prep the blanks for us and shape them. They come back over here, we do all the detailed shaping, decaling and painting and assembly and dress. So what we're trying to do is the old thing that we've always said is let the machines do what they do best, let the people do what they do best.
Guitar has to be a cohesive unit. It has to feel good, it has to look good, on top of everything else it has to sound good. And we try to achieve a balance of all those things. Different people find different things desirable in different guitars, so it's real hard to say what is the perfect design, what is the perfect guitar. It's just really what works for the individual player. It's possible for people to come up with their own designs, their own ideas, and have a major guitar manufacturer actually make that guitar for them. Using any kind of specialty wood, any sort of pickup configuration, basically whatever you want to have done, we'll make it for you, and it'll be a real Fender.
This string bender, or B-string bender, is a mechanical device that attaches to the guitar strap, which enables the player to raise the pitch of the B string, in this case on a Telecaster, from a B to a C sharp, simulating a pedal steel guitar. The device first came into being back in the 70s when Gene Parsons and Clarence White were playing in the Byrds. And that was at the infancy of the country rock sound, and he was able to get the pedal steel licks on a 6-string guitar.
Some of the other product, like the Robin Ford that we're doing now, the carved tops, or the set neck tellies and strats that we build, what that is again preparing the market. If trends shift, constantly pushing the envelope, constantly developing new abilities. That's what the custom shop's about too, besides just making one-offs, is to kind of push that envelope. We also are R&D. I mean, we do the research development too. Fender never did glue-on necks, okay? Well, now we can, and we came up with a great way to do it, and we got a patent on it, and it's a Fender guitar.
This is the Robin Ford signature model. Basically, there's two models. This happens to be the Ultra model, which is a semi-hollow body. The top has a little more room to vibrate. What the deal is, actually all around this whole outside is completely hollow, with a center solid block just going through here and stopping right at the tailpiece, leaving all the rest of this completely hollow. So they just get a really nice, warm, sweet tone, and plus it keeps them light too. But the thing that's different about these compared to the majority of Fenders is that it's got a set neck and also the tilted peg head up here, which is really kind of abnormal for most Fenders. So it's been kind of a bit of a trial project and just taking on a new task for Fender. All right, mainly what's going on here is we got the split coil so we can turn the humbuckers into single coils. So what I'm going to do first is the neck pickup as a full humbucker. And then now as a single coil. They just get a lot thinner and little less bottom, and they just sound sweeter. Yeah. And then now I'm going to do the bridge pickup as a full humbucker. And then also as a single coil. Those are basically the 4 different sounds. Then you can also do combinations of the 2 by putting them both on, and all the above combinations that you could ever probably think of.
The Fender sound basically is the twang sound. It's got a bit more metallic quality than some of the shorter scale guitars. It's a longer scale, 25.5-inch scale versus the shorter 24.5, 24 3/4 scales, and that were more traditional in electric guitars. And this is basically the scale of a full-size acoustic guitar. It's got just a twangier sound.
You start with the scale length. That determines the tone of the guitar. After you have the scale length established, then the wood's in the guitar, whether you use ash in the body or alder in the body, and how that wood sounds musically, which is just from experience of cutting X amount of wood and putting it together, determines the tone of the guitar. After that, the fingerboard, which is this area here, either is maple, rosewood, ebony, palfaro, a variety of woods, then determines the tone of the guitar. So the guitar as a fundamental musical piece starts with the scale length, which determines the string sound of the guitar, and then the woods that are incorporated into the guitar. Then the skill of how it's put together, how true the fingerboard is, the style of frets, how they're seated, how the guitar is constructed, then determines it as an instrument, you know, beyond just the wood character. And then it's the musician. The musician determines that. I've heard great musicians with what I consider mediocre guitars, and everybody can make a guitar speak differently. Everybody has their own attack on the right hand and their own pressure on their left hand, and that totally determines how a guitar speaks. So that musician has to find a guitar that's compatible to his playing style.
Jimmy D'Acquisto, who designed this product, is one of the most respected guitar builders in the world. And we respect him incredibly. And the opportunity just to build Jimmy's design means a lot to us. And we're very excited about doing that. When he designed that product, initially Fender US had no capabilities to do that. It's just showing the honor to who designed it.
The president, Bill Schultz, wanted to produce archtop guitars in the custom shop. This is it's called the D'Acquisto, and there's 2 models. This happens to be the Elite. It's a 16-inch by 19.5-inch body, jazz-style guitar, single humbucking pickup in the neck position, and it's all flame maple with a spruce top, ebony fingerboard bridge. It comes in a sunburst or natural, and it's done on a very small production, custom orders only.
We try to make him feel and play like the guitar or the guitars he's played in the past. We try to get that feel that the artist really likes and enjoys. It'll get any sound. You can play it rock and roll, country, blues, anything. It's just got the sound. Well, I love building these guitars because everyone's got its own personality. We go by Fender specs, but you know, everyone's a real delight to play and build and have people enjoy.
It's just a bunch of guys that build guitars, and we're thrilled to death to build for anybody. Whether you're Joe Schmo, whether you're, you know, Bill Blue, whether you're, you know, Eric Clapton, we want to build and can build for anybody. And that's kind of neat, you know, and that you can come here, you can call, you can talk to us. You know, every builder calls every customer, you know, to make sure that there's no confusion in translation from dealers or from our sales force or anything else. And that's cool because, I mean, when I went to Fender as a kid, the only contact I had was the people in the service center when I'd buy parts for my guitars. And that's the only person I could contact at Fender. And so I kind of feel we gave Fender that too, you know, we gave it a personality.
Each guitar, regardless of the manufacturer, has its own character. The one thing that we try to do at Fender, and I know they do at other manufacturers too, is to cut down the variables so the character is enhanced or allowed to be in the instrument.
Back in the 50s, they had to make a hand-made steel template, flame harden the edge, for every single route that they would make in a body. And they had, for most guitars, they had 4 or 5 different templates. And they screwed these things onto the same 2 screw holes, and then they'd route that portion out, and then they'd unscrew that one and put another one on to do like a neck pocket, you know, and then they'd put that one on and do that one. Then they'd unscrew that one, put another one on to do the perimeter. Well, after a while, those holes get to drifting a little bit, you know? So it's obviously not as accurate. Plus, the machine that they used to do it with is called a pin router. It has a pin coming up from the bottom that's the same diameter as the cutter that's hanging down. Okay, the pattern goes on the bottom, and you put it on that pin. Well, the cutter can only cut where that pin can go, so you're safe, you know? But there's always some misalignment there. So, you know, this side of the body might be a little different than this side of the body, kind of a thing. So there's inaccuracies in a lot of it. The big routers and stuff that we use today they make wooden bodies to machinery tolerances. I mean, we're talking plus or minus 5/1000ths of an inch. That's what those machines will hold. That's quite a bit better than Leo and his pin router.
We had nothing. We bought the name. We bought what we thought we were going to be a distribution company because we had this fine line of guitars from Fujigen Gaki in Japan. We were looking for some amplifiers somewhere to buy, and we were just going to sell the name, and we were doing well for the first month or so. However, the Big Seven got together and had a meeting, and that's when the yen started to rise. And at that time, we knew that we had better make some plans for the future in manufacturing. We had to go out and buy new equipment. We were fortunate, we got a lot of our old employees back with us. We went out and had about 12,000 square foot building in Corona and thought, well, we'll build 12 guitars a day. We got right into the American Standard guitar, and to this date, we're in a backorder situation. Our overseas distributors kept coming back to us, please manufacture more American guitars, and gave us price points. So we expanded throughout that whole Corona area. We now have close to 30,000, 35,000 square feet there. So for 4 or 5 years, it was nothing but expansion and realigning every year, building manufacturing from scrap. We had another fellow who had been with us but wasn't totally qualified to take it to the next level above 12. And we started interviewing people. And we were very fortunate. Doug came along, and we hit it off from day one, and Doug has done a wonderful job over there. He reports to our senior executive vice president, Kurt Hemrick, who is in charge of all manufacturing.
We had to step away from what CBS had done and develop everything new. When Fender was bought out from CBS, a lot of the technology in CBS was old-fashioned. The more and more product during CBS's later days was being purchased from offshore. The Japanese have state-of-the-art facilities to manufacture electric and acoustic guitars. So one of the first things that Dan Smith and Bill Schultz did when Doug Mills came on board was sit down with me and say, hey, here's what this guy does, and here's what this guy does, and here's what this guy does. So we were able to sit back in this facility before we invested our money and look at everybody's approach to making Fenders, because there were 101 manufacturers trying to make Fender guitars. We took the best that we found from all these manufacturers, incorporated them in here, and then did the one-upsmanship. Now we have the state-of-the-art facility. Our goal is to maintain this facility as a world-class, state-of-the-art manufacturing facility and be competitive with everybody else that has the capability to manufacture Fender guitars. It's great that we make Fender USA guitars here in Corona, and we do it successfully, but it's not enough to say that that's where we are and what we are. We have to look 10 years down the road. I want this factory to be competitive and successful 10 years from now, not just today, and that means that you can't rest on your laurels. You have to continue to innovate and evolve, or you die. It's a world economy now, and there's a lot of guys out there who can make a very good Fender Strat. They just can't make my Fender Strat. Those areas where we need to maintain a dimensional accuracy, or where the operation was unsafe, or where the operation doesn't give you the repetitiveness that we want, we've turned that over to NC equipment. And even more importantly, it gives us a lot of flexibility, because we can take a block of wood now, and by having an engineer design a body and program that NC, I can change body design, body styles, neck design, neck styles, much more rapidly than they used to when everything was hard tooled and done by hand. And we make a lot of them, and that's one of the reasons we have to have that kind of flexibility. A neck in the wood mill before it goes into paint has 41 different operations that have to go on. All of them are measured within thousandths of an inch. When that piece comes in, the first thing we do is check the moisture content and make sure it's ready to process. And we buy two. We buy a blank for maple neck. We buy a different thickness blank for the rosewood. And basically from that point on, it's our hands-on of planing, milling, routing, assembly, gluing, fret installing, and finishing. It gets it into a guitar neck. I buy my wood seasoned, kiln dried, ready to make into a guitar from my mills. When the wood comes in, the only thing I have to do at that point is fabricate it, glue it together, let it age with the glue so it stabilizes. The body woods are basically alder, poplar, a species called punk ash, which is Louisiana swamp ash. The body's only got 12 operations that it goes through. Most of that is through NC routing today. In the old days, one of the things that made Fender unique was the fact that each one of them was a little bit different and had a little bit of character. What we've tried to do here is take the best of the character that was available, design that into the instrument, and then through technological advances, the NC routing of the computer-aided design and all of the things we do that take out the routine, difficult tasks and put them into the product to the point that we have a very good, consistent product versus in the old days, those things that made them different were things, mostly production problems. From that point, once we get the wood blank cut out, we really turn it over to the hand craftsman again. Those are the guys who sand and shape and do the final before paint. When they go into paint, the process really starts over again. It's a separate department and a separate environment for us. In the painting process, the number one thing we try and do is stabilize the wood so that it doesn't come into play again in the future of the instrument. We've worked for years and years developing paint processes that provide the sound that the instrument wants, the aesthetics that the instrument and the customer is looking for, and at the same time are cost effective for us to carry through the process. We spend a lot of time, we reject a lot of product to get to the point that we are able, through buff and polish, to send a body and a neck to final assembly that meets our standards. Once they're in final assembly, we go through then the assembly operation with the electronics being fabricated and installed to the guitars. The hardware, the tuning gears, bridge, and all the accessories are then mounted. The neck is matched to the body. And finally, a tuner tester, who is a player, is given the instrument for final setup and checkout. We set up each instrument to a specification that we hope satisfies the average player. When he picks a guitar up at a music store, we feel that he should be able to pick that instrument up and play it to his satisfaction. There are nuances. Everyone likes a little different feel, a little different setup, maybe different strings. But what we want to give the customer is first feel of a Fender guitar is, that feels good. And I think that's one of the things we've done in this factory that has helped our reputation considerably. We spend a lot of time and a lot of attention to detail to make sure when that case is first opened at the customer's store that they are satisfied with it.
And see if there's any scratches or defects in the finish. Now I'll check the electronics. I'm going to intonate the guitar. Make sure it's the spec. Okay, so I'm going to make sure the bridge is laying flat on the body. Screw it down. Then I'll be fretting down the very last fret so I can see the bow in the neck. That's good. Now sand the rest of the nut. Action's good. Now check the height of the pickups. Okay, and the last thing I get to do is play it. Make sure it plays good.
In a lot of areas, Fender has been first because of Leo, because of artists that have played Fender. I think probably more than anything, what Leo is able to do with the electric guitar is make a playable instrument that makes its own good, unique sound that people like, and at the same time make a very durable product.
I think that Leo Fender didn't go with more of an acoustic guitar right off the bat because he wasn't a guitar builder. The same reason why he wouldn't have had the block or the paradigm in his head that you had to glue the neck on and put a heel on. You know, well, I got to attach this piece to this piece. Let's screw it together. That's what you would do if you're making a cabinet.
What Leo made was an accessible guitar to the public, and one of the things that made it accessible was a simpler construction. It's a bolt-on construction, which means you have a lot more room to correct things or change the neck if something's wrong with it, or change the body if there's some defects in manufacturing. So he made a very manufacturable guitar, but it's also a very sexy guitar. The contours on the Fender are just, you know, very comfortable for a player. It's a well-designed player's guitar on top of that. Plus, he designed a pickguard assembly that was versatile. You can change pickups in it without, you know, altering the entire design of the guitar like you would on other instruments. And at the time, I think the guitar was an innovation to the style of music that was being played. It offered a lot of variety with the different pickups. Other guitar manufacturers had one good sound, where this guy designed a guitar that had a variety of sounds available.
And that I want the strings to come back to pitch. I had tried some other guitars that had those on there, another manufacturer's guitar, and the strings wouldn't come back to pitch. And it was no good for my reasons. I wanted to do steel guitar things on it. And so Leo figured out the spring-loaded contraption like that to imitate a steel guitar. On a recording session, you could get double scale. That's why I wanted the tremolo thing.
I think there's a misconception. I think some people feel that those changes were made by some management people that came in from CBS. The reality of it was those were evolutions to the designs, to the Stratocaster, that were brought about by Leo Fender. If you look at the patents on those were Leo's patents. Those are things that basically he probably heard from people, hey, it's every time I want to adjust my instrument as far as the height adjustment, or if I want to adjust the neck, I've got to take it off, I've got to put a shim in it. So as far as the tilt adjust, which was a very good idea, which we even use today, that tilt adjustment was done to make it easier to adjust the action of the instrument, easier to set how the instrument was going to play. Also, the truss rods were very difficult to adjust on Fenders. You generally had to pop the screws, you had to tilt the neck back, and you had to try to get in there with a screwdriver. And a lot of old Fenders have got scarfed up pick guards because guys were trying to adjust the truss rod. So the bullet truss rod was he moved the adjustment down to the headstock end to make it easier to get to. So a lot of those things were done for good reasons. And I think really what took place was they didn't look like the old instruments from the 50s and 60s, which suddenly started becoming popular.
Some people debate now who invented the solid body guitar. You know, was it Les Paul with the log, or App, who made a few solid body guitars, or Leo Fender? Well, I think it's pretty self-evident that Leo Fender, while he didn't invent the solid body guitar, did have the first truly commercially successful solid body guitar that sold in large quantity.
If you don't grow, you die. Our biggest growth area is in electronics, and we have dedicated a lot of time, assets, money, effort, and everything into this area. We have a 32-man electronic R&D department now. Our new building for electronic manufacturing the keys will be handed over to us on the 17th of this month. We have a very solid R&D department off by itself now, under Dan Smith, who used to be our marketing manager. And they're working on a myriad of things for the future. And some we put on the shelf, and some we'll bring in, like our new bass neck with the graphite reinforcement. That was a big development for us into R&D. We have Bill Turner doing pickups for us over there now. We have just purchased Guild. Guild gives us a niche in the market that we didn't have. We have the jazz guitar now. We have a good acoustic line. We have some solid bodies from Guild that people collect and recognize.
Having dreamers, you know, is really important to a company, you know. You quit dreaming, you become stagnant, you know, you go away. So, and it's not just the master builders that are allowed to do that. I mean, the apprentices can do it too. I mean, basically everybody in the shop can dream, and I pay for them to do that, you know. And yes, it's costly, and yes, it costs production, and it costs a lot of things. It doesn't matter, you know. When all is said and done, you know, at least for the last 9 years, all I hear is, so what's a custom shop got this year? Got to see the custom shop, you know. And that's, hey man, that means I did my job, you know. Hey, did you see what the custom shop's got? When that's the buzz of the show and that's the buzz of the industry, that's our gig.
From instrument to instrument, today we're making the best Stratocasters and the best instruments that Fender's ever made. And I say that from a standpoint of qualification. An instrument made prior to now could have been a fantastic instrument. But at the same time, there were instruments that were not fantastic, made right along with fantastic instruments. What we've tried to do, along with most other manufacturers, is to get rid of the highs, get rid of the lows, and achieve everything at a very consistent level. We think we have the highest quality today, and we only know that from what our customers tell us, of product that Fender has ever produced. They sound fine, they look good, they last longer than they've ever lasted from a aesthetic standpoint and from playability standpoint. So, yeah, I think we make today the best instruments that Fender has ever made. That doesn't mean that we're not going to make better instruments tomorrow. That doesn't mean that there's not one unique instrument that goes through the process that isn't the best instrument ever made from an electric guitar standpoint. You're dealing with woods that have their own tonalities, that add their own life to the instrument. When you're dealing with that, you can get some spectacular things happen in a piece of wood.
One of the coolest things about the Fender sound is, I mean, even though it's a very specific tone or a very specific type of sound, very easily identifiable, one of the things the players like best about the Fender sound or Fender guitar is they put their personality in it to get the specific tone. You know what I mean? And that's what they like about it the most. And so to try to define what the tone is, I can't. You know what I mean? What I do know about the Fender tone is it allows the player to come through it. It allows the player to sculpt it. So even though it's obviously a Fender, it's also obviously Clapton, or it's obviously Beck, or it's obviously Bonnie Raitt, or it's obviously Dick Dale.
So he says, take this guitar, Stratocaster, it's been on the market a year. Says, you bang it to death and tell me what you think of it. Well, the reason why he gave it to me and didn't throw me out was because when he first saw me pick it up, I picked it up upside down backwards. And so here I'm holding this right-handed guitar, and I'm transposing in my head what little things I know and making these sounds on it. And he's going, did someone teach you how to play like that? I said, no, Mr. Fender. I said, I just didn't, the book didn't say turn it the other way, squeak it to the left-handed. And he just laughed and laughed. And I guess then was when we had this beginning of he was like a second father to me. I'd go ding, 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 like that, you know, and do like a boogie-woogie thing. And it would get nice and loud, and Leo would go, why do you got to be so loud? You know, because, you know, Joe Maphis and all these greats, you know, Merle Travis, they play so beautifully, you know, and Les Pauls. And me, I was hammering on it like I was playing drums. And that's the thing. I was playing a guitar like you play drums.
Well, Mr. Fender has something that he'd like you to play and try, you know. And so I would go into his office, and he's got thousands of pickups all over the desk. And he'd have like an office chair with wheels on it, and he'd have his visor here, you know, some magnifying glasses and eye protectors, and different guitars in various stages of construction, all different kinds too, different prototypes. There was a Les Paul sitting there. There was I think a Fender Stratocaster sitting in there, and he'd have me play something, and then I'd say, well, you know, he said, which one do you like better? I said, well, I kind of like this one better. Why? Well, it feels better to me. Why? You know, he really wanted to be specific on what it was about that you like better, you know, and so just working with him made me have to think more. Well, you know, is it the brightness? Is it the overtones? Is it the sustain? Is it the attack and the decay or whatever?